Hello to all YouTubers and welcome back to another educational video by yours truly, New York Steelo. Today we're going to talk about how to properly aquascape a reef aquarium. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts, what you can and cannot do. Also going to do a quick little update here on what's gone on in the system the past 3 days. This is actually day number 21. Now, first things first, I want to say you're going to see two pieces of coral here. We're going to zoom in here, and by all means, do not attempt this at home. Absolutely do not do this. On the 21st day of you setting up your system, do not add SPSs to your system. I'm only doing this because I'm an advanced aquarist and because I baby the system, and the system has fully cycled since day number sorry, I'm not sure if it was day number 16, 17. The tank fully cycled, no signs of ammonia, nitrite, or nitrate in the system, and that is due to the deep sand bed here, which you can actually see that there's lots of nitrogen gas inside of this 4-inch deep sand bed. Now, this nitrogen gas is actually formed by the bacteria that live beneath the deep sand bed, which consume nitrates and release it as a form of nitrogen gas. Now, the rock, as you can see, a lot of the brown diatoms have died off that quick, seriously. And because the tank actually cycled rather quickly, when the cycle fully occurs and there are no signs of ammonia or nitrite in your system or nitrate, an explosion of life is just evident everywhere in the 90-gallon system. And so we're gonna, let me see if I could zoom in, and maybe you can see on the front of this glass is a lot of little dots. Let's see if I could zoom in a little closer here. And all these little dots that you see in the front of the glass is actually little mini stars. Now, these mini stars came in the live sand, in the packaged live sand. Very beneficial for you to have. Copepods, amphipods, and the such are just roaming around the entire system. And what I'm gonna do for you guys is provide a link in the description down below where you can actually go to this link and look up any type of live rock hitchhiker that may come in your system. You know, I get far too often they send me messages, you know, what do you think this critter is? Go check out that link below and you'll be able to look up a lot of the critters, and it'll actually tell you if the critter is good or bad. Now, a quick update before we get into the aquascaping here is that there is a total of 90 pounds of live rock in the system. There's 50 pounds on the main display, and there's 40 pounds of Fiji. So another 20 to 30 pounds were added to the system. I maintained it Monado live rock. This rock is absolutely awesome, very porous and lightweight, and that is actually what you want to look for. But I will cover live rock versus dry rock in a future video and really get into detail the differences and everything of the sort. So basically down here behind the protein skimmer is located 50 pounds of live rock. Now let me clear this up quickly on this brief little update that I'm giving you of this 90-gallon system. Had I added the entire 90 pounds of live rock to the main display, there is no way that I would add this rock to the first stage here, because that of course is going to do create the same mistake of adding bio balls. You know, you don't want excess amount of filtration because it's just going to create more nitrates. You just want the correct amount of the filtration necessary in order for there not to be any ammonia or nitrite present in the system. So therefore, because I wanted to literally have an open aquascape and not have so much rock in the system, I've actually supplemented, an extra 40 pounds of live rock here behind the skimmer. Now, 3 main reasons for this rock being there. Number 1, supplemental live rock, which will create, which will offer more surface area for bacteria to grow and basically break down organics. Number 2, it actually serves a purpose for me here where it'll actually prevent microbubbles from making it into the refugium stage. Very important considering that I removed the socks from that area. Now, another thing that reason for that rock being there is that there is actually a different kinds of micro and macro fauna that can grow where there is not much lighting. You know, when you actually have live rock in an area that does not contain intense lighting, some interesting micro and macro fauna can actually form from there, and I'm actually encouraging that from happening. Now, another indication that this tank has reached stability, and one of the reasons why I've added these pieces of coral just to test the system, is that you can see even in the protein skimmer here, I don't know if you're going to be able to capture that, but you can see the green on the skim box here. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but that in itself is an indication that the system is actually reaching stability and is where you want to be. Now, so, you know, aquascaping a reef aquarium is not that difficult to do, and a lot of it just has to do with some common sense here. But the number one mistake that I see so many of you to commit, you know, is that you guys take a bunch of rocks and just bunch them up on top of the sand and call it an aquascape. While that may be pleasing to you, it's not beneficial to the system. So before you even consider aquascaping the system, you have to make sure that you do it for the benefit of the system, not so much for the liking, you know, for your likes. So basically, you know, me, I actually do visit other people's channels and watch their videos if I'm subscribed to you, but I haven't had the chance to do so in such a long time because I'm very busy. And I want to say this, if I visit your channel and I see something wrong in your system, I'm not one to post a comment and criticize your system. And that is because over the years, you know, that I've been in this hobby, I've learned that if that particular individual is not seeking knowledge, there's no reason for me to come into his page, for example, and look at his system and criticize it and give him some advice. You know, if you're looking for the advice, you would come to me. But far too often I come into people's channels and I see so many of you who just have a bunch of live rock just bunched up on top of the sand bed, and it's basically creating dead spots. Dead spots are a totally 100% should be avoided, especially when you lack water movement. Now let's touch up on this as well, because aquascaping and water movement play a very important role with each other together. Now in this particular case here, I've got two MP40s here, and you can see the amount of water movement that these MP40s are actually making within the system. And that is extremely important in order for you to prevent dead spots. Now we're going to take a look here. We're going to go up higher, and we're going to look at the amount of water movement that these MP40s are actually doing. I mean, in order for these two pumps, or any pumps for that matter, to actually move 90 gallons of water up and down, back and forth, in all together like this, in this manner, it takes a lot of brute strength. You definitely need powerful pumps, and that is one of the reasons why I wanted to touch up on this particular subject. And that is because the majority of you lack the necessary water movement in your marine aquariums. I mean, it is that common. I actually have gotten into conversations with some of my subscribers who claim that they believe that there's too much water movement in their main display. Now you have to keep in mind that these animals, they come from where the the shores wash up on the reef, and the amount of water movement found in this area is 1,000 times stronger than what these pumps can actually make. But for that percentage of you who actually lack the water movement, when it comes to having strong pumps like this, it is absolutely necessary. And I cannot stress this enough, that you cannot bunch up the rocks together, cover the sand bed, cover everything, and not aquascape it in the manner that I've done it here. Now this aquascape is not 100% permanent, but you know, the principle still lies here. And I've simply just taken quickly some of this rock here and positioned it in this manner, just so I could give you a general idea of what to look for when you actually want to aquascape your marine aquarium. So we're gonna get closer here. Let's get closer here. And I apologize for these lines here. For whatever reason, the brown lines that I have here on my camera, you know, the metal halides, they produce so much intense lighting, and you can see it in the back of the overflow box, you know, that shimmering effect, you know, and it's on the sand bed itself, that with this, once I added the sand to the system, because the sand is white, the light that's being given from the metal halides is actually bouncing off of the sand and sort of hitting my camera or something of the sort, and it's causing this. And I can tell you that before the sand was there, the light was penetrating through the bottom, and I wasn't getting these brown lines. And I really tried to mess around with the camera. Apologize for it. If you have any suggestions, comments about the such, I might actually have to contact Sony and find out why these brown lines are there, but I apologize. So we're gonna move on to the aquascape here. So if you're looking at here now, there's 50 pounds of live rock here. Now these 50 pounds, you can see that there's actually quite a number of pieces of live rock here. I mean, we've got 4 pieces of live rock, only 4 pieces sitting on the sand. Very important. And out of those 4 pieces, there's actually very small surface area that's actually sitting on the sand. We're gonna take a closer look here. Give you guys a little tour here. This is so important here, because if, for example, you see this big piece of rock here on the left side. Now this big piece of rock, I could easily position it where the surface area of one side of the rock is actually going to cover a lot of the area in the sand bed. This is what you actually want to avoid. You actually want to make sure that the rocks are secure, but that they cover the least amount of area in the sand, and this is just so that you can prevent dead spots. Also, try to take the rocks and stack them up in this manner, you know, as wide and as open as you possibly can. And this, once again, is to prevent the dead spots, and it'll actually serve for you in a better way so you can position your corals. I did this quickly within, it took like about 2 hours to come up with this aquascape. Although not final, I did have in mind that maybe I wanted to put here in this area, you know, some SPS's. Basically, this tank is going to be SPS dominated, but I wanted to put maybe a Montipora here and maybe a Montipora here on the other side. Give it plenty of space. Fill up the entire area on the top of SPS's. The majority of LPS corals are going to be at the bottom here, and the mushrooms and the such. So it is extremely important, guys, that if you sit down in front of your system and you look at your system, and your system does not look like this. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly like this. I mean, you can have an island here on one side of the tank and another island, or 3 islands, and if your tank is actually longer than 4 feet, it'll actually work out better for you. But the principle here is that if you don't have an island, it is absolutely necessary to spread out the rocks as much as possible. Now, quickly here, you know, one of the main questions that I get often when it comes to aquascaping is, do I position the rocks at the bottom of the glass and then add the sand, or do I simply add the rocks on top of the sand? I'm here to tell you that there's no right or wrong way when it comes to this in particular. In this case, I've actually buried the rock in the sand, but if you have a deep sand bed, there's a very good soft cushion structure beneath the rock to be able to keep the rock in place. So, you know, it's not necessary for you to bury it. Now, a couple of things you want to look for also is the space that is made from the rock to the back of the overflow box. And you can see here that there's actually approximately 6 inches, you know, from the front to the back of each and every one of these rocks. So you want to make sure you create caves and crevices for your fishes to hide, and certain nocturnal animals to be able to hide during the day when they come out at night. The principle is the same here, and it's not that difficult to do. Now, lastly, I wanted to cover questions that I get commonly asked. You know, well, what do you think about taking some epoxy and, you know, putting the rocks all together? I can tell you that this actually depends on the size of your rock. And to be quite frank with you, in this particular case, I've used no epoxy. I've actually positioned the rock in this way. And when I position the rock in a particular way, I make sure that I move it in all directions here to make sure that it is actually safe. And it would take the strength of a human to be able to actually downslide this rock work that I've created here, with plenty of space in the back of the rock. Let's move over to this side here. See if I can show you that there is plenty of space down at the back here so that the animals can actually hide. And it's really not that difficult to do, guys. But this would be Aquascape. Does not have to be exactly the same as you see here, but it does, and I highly recommend you guys to do this. You know, make sure that you spread out the rock. So I hope you guys have found this video informational. I did receive the cleanup crew 2 days ago, and I've added it to the 30-gallon nano system. And then I'm actually inspecting the animals before I add them here. There's no real need to add them as we speak because there's barely any algae growing. All I did, I have not done any water changes. All I did was just replace the carbon once the cycle was finished with some Chemi-Pure Elite. And that's it. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, be sure to check out the link below for the Live Rock Hitchhikers. Be sure to voice your opinion. And there will be many, many more videos to come, guys. So this is New York Steelo signing out. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Peace.